Hello, students. Today we will have the summary of the first chapter of Hornbill, The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. My dear students, the chapter, The Portrait of a Lady, is basically the story of the author and his grandmother. The author, when we are talking of, is Khushwant Singh, and we are talking of his paternal grandmother. And the grandmother was an old woman with a wrinkled face. Her face was all full of wrinkles. The author had always seen her like that only. For the past nearly 20 years, uh, the the writer had seen her just in the same manner, and she appeared to be so old as if that he could only imagine her being never being young and pretty, as people used to say over sometimes. And she was basically short-headed, a fat lady, and just because she was too old, she was slightly bent also, my dear students. Now, the author had seen the grandfather's portrait over there in his house, and it seemed like a man, as if a man who would have a wife and children, and but sometimes who could have a lot of grandchildren also, because the portrait of the grandfather was also too old. It seemed as if that the grandfather had a very big beard, and such a kind of a person would have a lot of grandchildren. Now, his grandmother used to move around the house in spotless white, as her hair was all white. She was too old, and with her one hand resting on her waist, actually, just because too old and she couldn't walk properly. And her other hand was counting the beads of the rosary. And when she was doing this, we come to know that the rosary or the japmala is actually done by the religious people. They are reciting their prayers, they are doing their prayers. So with this, we come to know that this lady was a religious lady. The grandmother of Khushwant Singh was a religious lady. Now, in the initial days, the author and his grandmother had a good relationship. They had a lovely relationship between both of them, and the grandmother used to wake him up in the morning and get him ready for the school, and she used to pack the things required by him for the day and walked with him to school every day. And when she used to go to school with Khushwant Singh, and she used to visit the temple that was attached, that was connected to the school only, and she had a routine of reading the scriptures, the holy scriptures, the holy text, the holy books. And the author, along with her other children, and sat on the veranda, and they used to sing the alphabets and the morning prayers that were done in the school. Now, they both used to come back together, home together, with an they were followed by stray dogs over there, which were on the street, which used to roam around. And they used to come close to these two. Why? Simply because the grandmother used to keep stale chapatis, and they both of them feed these stray dogs. Now, soon the parents of the father, the mother and father of Khushwant Singh actually, who went into to the city over there to settle over there. And then when they were properly settled, then they called the grandmother and Khushwant Singh also. As they reached the city, his relationship with the grandmother, Khushwant Singh's relationship with the grandmother actually changed, took a slight turn over there. Now, what happened? Though they shared the room, their bond actually grew apart. There was some breakage over there, which we see over here. Now, he started going to an English medium school. In the village, it was not so, but now he was studying in the city, so he started going to a English medium school. Now, she no longer accompanied him to school. Why? Because obviously, in the city, the school bus used to come, and hence now the grandmother could not take the grandson Khushwant Singh along with her to school. This is one other thing. And she, however, used to ask him about his day and what he had learned in the school, and she didn't understand anything about, as everything was is another language, everything was in English language, and she was unable to answer those things and the things about the science what she didn't knew. So she did not approve of the new syllabus, whatever was being taught in the school, and that he was studying, because she thought that they did not teach him about God and scriptures according to her. It is something that Khushwant Singh should have received in school about the God, about the scriptures, about the holy scriptures, but that was not being taught over there in the school. Now they saw less of each other simply because of this, one of the reasons. As days passed ahead and he grew older, Khushwant Singh grew older, my dear students, and then he later on he went to the university, and he had his own room, and this made the relationship much more far between the students, so it breakened much more. Now she stopped talking to everyone and spent her whole day sitting and just spinning wheel, the charkha, which you call in Hindi, and she used to recite the prayers and moving beads on the rosary or the jap mala with one hand. However, she loved feeding the sparrows in the veranda at the dawn time, and breaking breads into the pieces and feeding it to the birds, and that was her daily routine. Now the birds would sit on her legs, some sit on her head, and some even came and sat on her shoulders. And soon the author decided that he also should go abroad and study for doing his further higher studies. Now the grandmother actually came to the railway station to leave him off, and she was not this time sentimental or emotional when he was going much far, such a big distance. Continuously she recited her prayers, and her mind was lost in the prayers only, and she kissed him on his forehead, which we come to know that this was one of the last physical contacts perhaps between these two. Now after 5 years, as he returned home, she was there, came back to pick him, and at the station, and was still the same. It seemed as if the grandmother hasn't turned older, one day older. Actually, it seemed as if she's of the same age, and she was still as she had been 5 years ago. And she clasped him. She took Khushwant Singh into her arms and didn't say any word. And she still used to feed the sparrows only. Now one day she didn't recite the prayers, but instead collected a lot of women of the neighborhood and got a drum and got a dholak actually, and started singing also, started beating the dholak and started singing also. And the next morning she was found ill, and she had a mild fever. Now the doctor said that there is nothing to worry about it, but the grandmother was not sure about it, and grandmother thought that her time has actually come near, that she is about to die. She's too old now, and she thought that this was her time, and she has her time is over on this planet Earth, and she's about to die. Now she didn't want to waste her time talking to anybody of the family members or to anyone anymore, but spend her last hours in reciting the prayers only. And at that time also she had the beads in her hand, the japmala in her hand, and she died. And so her body lay on the bed, and when she died, the body was laid on the bed only. It was all lifeless, and the japmala actually left, it just fell from her hands. And as they prepared for the funeral, they saw that all the sparrows actually came over there to see the grandmother. And although there were a lot of breadcrumbs over there which were thrown by the mother of Khushwant Singh, but none of the pieces were eaten by these sparrows, because these birds even had come to know that the grandmother had died who used to feed them, and the lady has died, and that is why a sense of emotion from these birds could also be felt, that they had also a part of heart connected to this lady, to the Khushwant Singh's grandmother, and they also didn't eat. And the next morning, these breadcrumbs had to be thrown away. With this, we come to the end of the summary of this chapter, The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. Thank you.